Hey everyone, it's Ryan Henry with INSPIREsmall.biz, and welcome to another episode of the Bright Ideas podcast, where each episode we bring a small business owner on and share their story and passion with you. Today, my guest is a connection I met several years ago while working together at Refinery 46 at near the state fairgrounds.
Mhm.
Jerimiah Little, RadBot Video.
Thank you.
Jeremiah, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me on your show, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for coming today.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed our conversation before we got on air, trying to set all this up. You being a video professional, you actually know what you're doing. And so just kind of trying things different. If you watched our last episode, we're still sitting in front of a just flat curtain, but we had the window off to my side. And
Yeah, this looks great. I love it.
so I think we finally found something in this office that can capture a good video. So,
Very cool.
so Jeremiah, let's get started about your early career. So, going through high school, what were your thoughts on what life looked like going into a career?
Yeah, I had no idea. Just completely. In fact, I just didn't know what I wanted to do until I graduated college with an associate's degree. I just randomly I just figured I'll do CAD, and I did CAD. I got that degree, and I was like, I hate this. So it was one of those. Really, I did all this work, and I'm like, I don't even want to do whatever this is. So did that, graduated, and then right after I graduated, my sister actually got me involved. She said that, hey, we're going to ITT, now a defunct school, and she said they got this cool 3D program. You can learn about media and 3D, and so I was like, I'm all in. Let's do that, and I loved it. I was literally went through there, made straight A's. In fact, the only reason I didn't get valedictorian is because I missed too many days. It was kind of weird.
No.
Yeah, I didn't even really care. I was just so interested in doing 3D and doing media and putting together presentations that look super flashy and yeah, I did that. I graduated. Already had a job when I graduated doing 3D, which was
Nice.
unheard of
Yeah.
like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It was just insane, and did that for a while, and then kind of got into back-end programming somehow. I was doing all the flashy stuff for websites and media and CD-ROMs and things like that, and doing 3D, and then got into back-end programming and never looked back, and I did that for like over 25 years, and then around 2020, like most, like a lot of
everything else
people,
in the world,
yeah, like 2020 was like it was this diving board moment where I was like, man, I got to get somewhere else. I got to do something else. So, like a lot of people, I just took the plunge into another career. I was already doing a ton of video, and I just said, man, I think I could do this, and so me and my partner at the time, we just went around to a lot of businesses that had to close, March 2020, and we said, how can we make promo videos for these companies? We've already done a ton of music videos and everything else. And so we did. And by the time everything was all lifted, we already had a portfolio. We were ready to go.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it was cool. It was good timing. So
let's back up a little bit
Yeah.
and catch people up on some acronyms. So CAD
oh,
has
yeah.
existed for almost as long as computers have been able to graphically show what's going on.
Yeah.
So tell everyone a little bit about what CAD is and
Yeah, so back in the day in junior high, you had a drafting board, right? And you bought the tools and the right angles and all this stuff, and you could, make blueprints. You could draw it up and stuff. And I always thought that was interesting. It's probably why I got into CAD, computer-aided design, to do the blueprints for a house. But I don't know, at some point, I was just like, I just don't like any of this stuff. I thought working with computers was awesome, but I just didn't like what that was. And I don't know, it's funny because I actually took a lower paying job doing graphics and learning how to do brochures instead of getting a higher paid job, which I was qualified for, just because I didn't even want to do it. So it's ironic. I'm telling you.
converting the stuff you're drawing on paper wasn't as much fun on a computer screen.
Yeah, there's just something about it. It just put me to sleep.
Fair enough.
So
then going back to school for 3D design, how did that come along? What was the first project that you were part of that made you go, okay, this is what I want?
well, it was probably the first day. I mean, as soon as you boot up really, once you get into it, back in the day, like 3D was done in DOS. Like you had to actually reboot the computer into DOS to get into 3D Studio Max, like 2 or whatever it was. And I know as soon as I personally saw my first 3D rendering, which you had to wait like 5 minutes for or whatever, I said, man, this is amazing. And then when I was able to make a movie of, just moving the camera forward in 3D space and just seeing what that looked like, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to do whatever this is. So, yeah.
So a lot more immersive than just drawing lines on
Absolutely.
the screen.
Yeah, anything with animation, and I was just like, yeah, I'm all about this. And I'm not even a great, drawer or, modeler or anything, but just the fact that you can move stuff around 3D space was awesome. Yeah.
So that at March 2020 was kind of your jumping board of RadBot Video coming into existence. So the entire world ended as we know it.
I know, right?
Everyone was buying baked beans and, everything they could find. I actually have a funny joke about an explanation finally of why the toilet paper was so hard to come by.
Please tell us, because I want to know.
It's because so many people were trying their own cooking for the first 10 years.
Could be.
So, so back to your story. As the entire world shuts down, so you and your partner are looking at all of these entities that now have to cope with life under the new rules that we have to follow.
Yeah, and we had tons of plans too. Just like everybody's plans got canceled. We all remember that. And so I actually liked 2020, believe it or not, because there was a ton of good things that actually happened. Like there was this comet that came through. We went out to the middle of nowhere up north and got to see this beautiful comet. It was the first time I ever saw Starlink go over. I thought that was just amazing, and got it by surprise too. I worked really hard on a small documentary that I did, and I actually got it on Amazon Prime for an entire year.
Oh, nice.
But, they don't let people do that. They don't let average Joes get stuff on Amazon Prime anymore. But I knew the system, and I'd worked really hard on it, so I was able to do that. So there was a ton of things that I was really proud of that I did. But, mainly because I think in some ways you just kind of felt lost, right? So, I mean, you couldn't plan for anything, didn't know what was going on. So I just said, well, I'm just going to enjoy myself, and, did all that stuff, went and did a lot of kayaking and stuff. So yeah, it's cool.
So then as you're working with clients to get RadBot Video growing faster and faster, what were some of the projects you initially worked on? What types of things did you do?
Well, so the very first project we ever had, I can remember clearly, it was for a guy named Matt Green. I don't know if you know Matt Green. Used to run Green's Lawn Care. Now it's Blue Duck. But he was in the refinery too, and he was actually leaving. And I just randomly caught him one day, and I was like, Matt, it would be a cool video for you is a video of you leaving because you're growing and expanding. I said, man, for anybody out there, when's the best time to do a video? Man, right when you are stepping off one ledge and going up the stairs, that when people see growth and you can visually show that, that's a huge video moment for you, to be able to do that. So, and he loved it. He loved the idea. And that was our first video, is just actually showing him packing up and leaving the refinery and showing the new place he was going into. I had to fly a drone super close to the back of his head because I had this one specific shot in mind, and I was scared to death, so I was like, Jesus, don't get too close to his head, so, but yeah.
But that sounds like such a clear video for a couple of reasons. One, it's not a blatant advertisement.
Right, yeah.
And you're sharing a victory that business owner has.
And it was the very first script I ever wrote, and I wrote that 3 nights before we were going to do this. I said, oh my God, I got the script in my head. And it was just like a couple of lines, growth, is this, and victory is this, and so it was just some simple lines just to explain, hey, if you take a chance, you could grow, and all this stuff. And he bought it. He thought it was the best thing ever. And I was like, this is great.
It reminds me of so you spoke on one of our online meetings not too long ago, and you were talking about some of the iconic brands and how they
Yeah.
advertise, but what you're describing kind of sounds like a Nike commercial because it's not about the shoes and the
Yep.
athletic gear. It's about pushing yourself and like,
The hero's journey.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you found a really great way to capture that for him and then convey that story.
Yeah. No, I love it. It was one of my favorites. In fact, the next video we did, well, the first video we did, we didn't actually get paid for was Gold Leaf.
The coffee
And yeah,
shop,
the
yeah.
coffee shop right at the end of my street. And I still show that today. I still think that's a fantastic commercial. Like the way we're able to use, these low aperture lenses to really show people making coffee and, checking people out. And, it looks so genuine and caring that anytime you could do that on video, you could be genuine and have a storyline and have music underneath of it. It's just a win-win, I think. So,
And so the person watching it then it goes, "Oh, this is an incredible place to go hang out."
right.
Because
And it is.
it,
It really is.
it's not about the cup of coffee that you're going to get. It's the entire immersive experience that you'll have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. So you mentioned you've also done some music videos
Mhm.
as part of your work. So what were some of the projects that you've worked on there?
Just so many. Really, there was lots of bands that I knew at the time, and were around then. And I mean, we basically do them for like hardly anything, really, because as a band, you don't make a lot of money. But I still wanted the experience, and I still, you know, still needed the experience to just be like, how can we represent your band in a great way that doesn't necessarily look like you're just a band on stage and stuff like that. So I was more into videos that had a storyline in it. So not just the Bon Jovi experience, but like, something more deeper, like a Tool video or something that really would have something really cool in there. And I feel like we did that a lot of times. And I don't know. There's no fame and fortune doing band videos, so it is what it is. It's kind of a personal thing. You believe in it and you want to do a great job and stuff. But since then we've done several videos for bands that have recorded live, and I thought those turned out really well. So we did,
In the action.
yeah. So we did like we went to Postal and filmed Sarah Grain and the Buildings of Stars while they were recording a live album, which is like the best both worlds because you have people in the audience that you have to dance around and then you have to get the performers on stage, but then that this band will do the right thing with it, right? It's not just something they'll share, it's something that they're trying to advertise to maybe even sell. And then after that, we did Kate Lamont, which also had, some superheroes doing sax and drums and bass from, Indianapolis. And even though she lives in California now and stuff. So it was just really cool because her whole thing was this, I want to show this on a movie theater. And I thought that was fantastic. I was like, I'm all about this. So yeah, I was super excited about that project. So
Nice. So let's pause here and give everyone an opportunity to get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about their video project.
okay. So I'm RadBot Video Production. You can look, it's radbotvideo.com. And my phone number is 317-721-3687.
Nice.
Yeah.
So all right, let's talk now about the present. So we were connected initially in about 2021 at Refinery, and then I've since moved here, and there was a while we didn't cross paths. But earlier this year, we got a chance to cross paths again at one of our networking events we hosted up on the north side. So, what are you looking for as far as an ideal prospect this year? What are some of the projects that you're just dying to make happen?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've kind of gone back and forth. I think like a lot of people, businesses do. What is my ideal customer? For me, my ideal customer is someone that's already doing video because those people already know the value of video. And that's one of the biggest things when people come to me, they see the value of video, but they're not sure of the price, right? So there's a certain people that are on the lower end and there's a certain people who are on the higher end. But I don't think, you should hesitate, right, to have a conversation because if you do see the value of video, then it's just a matter of, what does that look like for you? What does that perfect video look like for you? And then how long does it take to get there for you, personally, to be able to afford it? Not that we're some, super expensive people. We're just people in business, really. I mean, just like anybody else.
So maybe the person who's using their phone
Yes.
to capture videos now because they understand the importance of connecting
Absolutely.
with their customers, but the person who's ready to up that quality, up that
Yeah.
message to the next
And I
level.
would say if you're thinking about starting video, maybe just start with photos first. I think photos are underrated because so many people take photos on their phone. That's not the photos I take. I use low aperture lenses, and I could follow you around and get really killer shots that really show your hero's journey. And that could easily be done in photos. And that's just a prelude to doing a video like the same way, really.
So let's make the comparison of if you're playing a video game, because so many new entrepreneurs now grew up playing some pretty nice
Oh,
video
yeah,
games. But
absolutely.
so they started out taking like the first person shot, the view of them in the car driving on the track, and what you're ready to do is help them put them in the perspective rather than behind the camera, put them in front of it.
Right.
So it's capturing them with what they're doing.
Right. And that's the thing is, what I like to do is just let me just follow you around and, for an hour, and let me just get my take on what you're doing, right? Because out of 400 pictures I take, 50 of them are going to be amazing, right? And that's the way I look at it. It's more of like, you can't just say, hey, I'm going to go over here and do this. Why don't you take a picture of me? No. You got to take like 20, 30 pictures. You got to try multiple things. You got to try multiple altitudes and angles and stuff like that. And then finally, randomly, one of those will be an amazing picture. It'll be your star picture and your hero shot. And so, I think it's easier for somebody to just relax and just go about your business. And then if I asked you to, hey, why don't you try this or why don't you try that? That's when you might see some magic come through, I think. So, yeah.
Nice. What an age we live in today, though, that you don't have to change the roll of film. That
Right.
hope later on that a couple of those pictures are good, and then load the next roll. You can just keep going over and over and over.
Right. Now I overtake everything, even with video, like a lot of video jobs, we'll be there 2, 3, 4 hours, just capturing B-roll of what people do, right? Just to make a 2-minute video.
Yeah.
And that's just because the magic moments are there, but they're kind of spread out, right? You can't just say, okay, everybody do your magic and we got 5 minutes and stuff. That's just not going to work.
So the Walt Disney wand waving,
Right.
It's a myth.
Right. And I would rather capture more. In fact, so back up, for instance, for Lyuna, we did their hiring videos, right? And we knew the script going in, but we still spent 5, 6, 7 days filming these guys, like, all half days. That's a lot of footage. It was almost a terabyte of footage.
Oh, wow.
Just to make 2 30-second ads.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's just, but that's what they wanted, and of course, when you do that, they want to take that footage and they want to use it for other marketing materials and stuff. But if we're already there, we might as well capture whatever. That's why if I'm doing a video and they didn't ask me to do testimonials, I'm still doing testimonials.
Because it's part of
It's
getting the story.
Yeah, it's just getting the story, and you never know. Hey, a year from now, that story is still useful. Now you just put some more B-roll on it, and it's another video. I just think I'd rather not sit around. I'd rather just be doing stuff, and thinking about other videos. And that's what I always tell people when they call me and say, I want this one video. It's like, well, for the same price, you can almost do 3 or 4 of them.
Several,
Yeah, I wish more people would think about that. Yeah.
But you bring up a really good point of sharing the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so those testimonials are a real life story about how your product or service was a success to somebody.
Yep.
And that's something you can never capture this is the feature. This comes in a glass bottle, 6 ounces or 10 ounces.
Right. No, and it is a story, but it's also a part of the bigger story. When somebody says, I want to do an overview video about my company, well, there's many parts to that. In fact, it's not just you, right? It's how you affected your employees, how you affected your customers as well. And and I always say an overview video is actually a hiring video, because if I want to work where you're working at your company, I want to see, and just like a lot of people, they want to look in on the internet when nobody's looking, and they want to look into your glass house, and they want to see how you manage your crew, and is the crew happy? How do the customers, look? Do the customers look happy? All those things, before I even call you. That may be a shock to a lot of people, but that's why having those photos and that video on your website is super important. And yeah, people say, I want to do it for social media. Social media is fine.
Yeah.
But that should be a second thought, right? I think we got all these developers telling you should work for Facebook and upload stuff every single day, right? Like as if you need another job, right?
Right.
But I feel like those are the developers telling you that, how much money do you actually make from those platforms? How about we worry about ourselves and our own website, and then from there we kind of go, okay, social media.
Well, and quality content will go viral just on the merit of the quality that it has.
Yep.
People love a feel-good story. People love things that are visually pleasing, and it, gives them a reason to stop doom scrolling for a minute.
Yep. And when it comes down to something that's visually appealing, you definitely want that, but also that only lasts for a certain amount of time. And then if there's no storyline to keep me invested in what looks visually appealing, then it's no good, right? And then we were talking before we got on here, audio, when we talk about these lapel mics,
Yeah.
right? Audio is the most important part of video. And if the audio is not good and the video is great, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to watch it because I can't hear it. I don't understand what's going on. And so, it doesn't matter how much you spend on the video if the audio is bad. It just doesn't. So,
Enough. And that's why at the end of the day, using your phone to capture those moments for your business just isn't going to work if you really want to dig in.
right. And I think, so here's what I always say to people. It's great to do your own videos, because in some ways doing a personal video where you're just holding your phone like that is your connection to your customer, and you can connect to your customer. But at some point, they want to see you in a Cadillac, they want to see you fully dressed up to the nines, and that's what I consider a professional video. Is that's your time to shine. The other time is your time to connect, right? But you need both of those, I think. Yeah.
So it's a balance of finding, sometimes you need the direct connection with your audience. So a quick story or something like that, but you still need well thought out quality content to
Yep.
go in between.
Mainly for the people that don't know you. If people know you, then yes, doing the selfie video or, just telling a quick story or showing what's going on, I think is good for people that already know you. People that don't know you are going to want to see that highly produced video to really you catch them up on what you've been up to, really, in your story. And then we can get to the personal stories for sure.
Nice. So you're now 6 years into business, right?
It's about 5-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we didn't incorporate until 2021. So.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
you started with the initial projects in 2020 and realized it could become a business.
Yeah.
2021, you made it official.
We made it official, and you know how it is. Every time somebody starts, the first year is kind of ghostly. It's like, okay, we got to get the website set up. We got to make sure we get all these programs. Okay, what are we going to use for a CRM? I mean, those are all, things that you do when you first start up a business or else.
They are certainly some of the reasons why starting a business is frustrating, because either you struggle to choose the right ones, or you just completely bypass it and it becomes a mess, and then you have to go back and actually pick one.
Right.
So now, 5 years into business, what has been the biggest change that you have seen in yourself and RadBot Video?
Well, so this last year, my partner had left to move to France.
Okay.
And so a lot of the back end stuff, I kind of had to take over, like the billing and handling all the calls and stuff. But, the biggest change I think is, starting at the very beginning, we started out as a woman-owned business. We tried to do a lot of RFPs from, the state and the city. It really tried to get into that realm doing video, and in the end it really didn't work for my industry, right? Because the government, building contractors and stuff, video is kind of like this afterthought, right? And then we thought, well, surely we'll get some work doing drone stuff. And it turns out that all the companies just bought drones for their employees. They didn't really care about hiring outside. Now, that being said, we've gotten several contracts from Ruth Riley and other construction companies to do drone stuff. So, but it wasn't as big as what we what we really thought. So we really had kind of spent a ton of time networking in the wrong places, right? And so, in the last couple years, I've kind of doubled down on doing other networking, joining the AMA, which is American Marketing Association. And now I kind of feel like now I'm in the right groups, right? Now I do have the right connections and stuff. And so as I, grow my networking and stuff, hopefully the business grows too.
And it's about being intentional of putting yourself where your target audience is hanging out.
Absolutely.
So, let's talk a little bit about a new project you have going on that we talked a little bit about. You're starting your own podcast.
Yeah, I might be doing that. I know I'm still on the I might be, but even though we did some tests the other day, but yeah, it's really cool. The biggest thing for me is visually I could do audio, I can do it, but the biggest thing is I don't want to do it if I don't have anything to bring to it that is going to bring value to people, right? Because I want to do something local, Indianapolis, something about marketing, and maybe taking individual people and, getting their take on what they're doing, what they're finding value in marketing wise, right? And then why that actually works. And then, or if they don't, like, how can we figure it out? Maybe give them some ideas and stuff. Cause I love troubleshooting marketing and talking about, just different ways of doing stuff like that. So I don't know. I'll see if, if we can bring value, then absolutely, I'll be doing it. And if it just turns out to be another Joe Rogan, then we'll just throw it out the door. So
Another Joe Rogan?
we got enough Joe Rogans.
Okay, fair. I don't know. There's always room on Spotify for another person giving life advice about a life they never lived until that day. So you just never know.
Hilarious.
So Jeremiah, what advice would you offer to a new entrepreneur today who's just starting out?
I would say don't freak out about all the things that go into it. So initially when we got into it, we're like, okay, what are we going to use? Are we going to use QuickBooks? Are we going to use HubSpot for the, CRM and stuff? And I would just say find one and just get going, right? Because I think we spent too much time trying to research all this stuff. And in the end, I still use like 3 different programs for the core stuff that we do. And later on, I'm going to figure out how to streamline all this into one program. But, just get going on, because the biggest part about your business, no matter what it is your process. And really, that should be your selling point. Like when you come to me and say, Jeremiah, I want a video, I don't say, well, we got 4K cameras and they're approved by Netflix. I don't say that. I say, okay, well, here's our process. Because in the end, people want to know that you have a process and you're not just like, hey, can I just show up and film? And then, well, I don't know when it'll be done. It'll be done, sometime or whatever. They want to make sure that they're getting into something professional. And the biggest professional thing you could do is have a process. Here's how you onboard a client in our company. Here's how you talk to them. And then you get to this step. And then now there's a contract later on down the road and we can all agree on all this stuff. And then now there's an invoice for it's a whole process. And if we didn't have that, I'd probably lose sight of where I'm at with every project. So it's a good thing to have.
Fair enough. And it gives that customer the assurance that you've done this before.
Right. We've done this before.
We're going to put great work out at the end.
Yep.
And no one's going, well, where the hell are we?
Yep.
Nice.
Absolutely.
So Jeremiah, one more time, how can people get a hold of you?
So radbotvideo.com. And I think there might be some other company called RadBot, but they make like floor sweepers, and I think they're out of business. So we're not the floor sweeper company. We're just.
So you're with the robot logo. Huh?
Yeah. So, and then people will come up to me all the time. Oh, you're with Bad Robot, right? And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not Bad Robot. It's RadBot, and my number is 317-721-3687.
Awesome. Well, Jeremiah, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you, Ryan.
Have this conversation.
Absolutely.
To everyone watching, Contact Jeremiah Little with RadBot Video for your next video project. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be interviewed on a future episode of this podcast, comment below. We're always looking for new people to bring into our audience. Take care, everyone.